Well, this is really fun opportunity for me to ask Akiane the questions you might want to ask. And I thought, if you don't mind, maybe we could start off with just kind of like a few fun popcorn questions.
Let's do it.
Right?
I love these pop questions.
So just to get to know you a little better. So your parents are Lithuanian?
My mother is Lithuanian and my father is American, but he has Lithuanian roots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you speak Lithuanian?
Yes.
Yeah?
Lithuanian, Russian, English, learning Japanese, learning Korean, and Mandarin.
Oh my gosh.
Just my off time.
Вы говорите по-русски, да?
Вы говорите по-русски тоже? Вау.
Изучал русский язык 1 год.
1 год?
1 год.
Wow.
Okay, we'll stop.
Bravo.
Because that's all I know.
That is all you need to know. Привет and пока.
Привет. What is your all-time favorite band?
Band. Wow. I would say that I'm a very, very...
You can't say ABBA, even though you have European roots.
That's my mother's actually favorite band, coincidentally. I would say that I'm a big fan of the Asian culture, and I was a fan of BTS for a while.
Oh, K-pop girl.
If there was any background music I would play during my painting sessions, I would play classical, bossa nova, jazz, salsa. I would play something along those lines.
So you don't paint to K-pop?
No, I do not. But I
Good
do
to
love
know.
listening and walking on the beach with it.
Yeah. What's one song you would be embarrassed to admit that you like? And it can be ABBA.
I don't think there is no song that I'm embarrassed about. Like I appreciate all songs. Like there's nothing to be embarrassed.
No K-pop songs.
No,
All
I'm not
right.
embarrassed.
All right. If you could meet one person from history to talk to, who would it be? Can't be Jesus. You've
Darn
already
it.
met him.
I would probably say my grandfather
Oh.
from
Why?
Lithuania, because he was a very, very gifted poet and filmmaker, and I never really got the chance to sit down and talk with him. I met him very briefly when I was an infant, but I knew that he was an incredible human being that gave so much to people and to his country that I just wanted to sit down and just pick his brains and just have a laugh with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An artistic background
Like
too.
exactly.
Yeah. What is your all-time favorite movie?
Wow, that is a great one. I would say documentaries. I think in general, documentaries evoke a lot more emotion in me because they are able to depict real life scenarios and real life stories. And for some reason, anything about from the ground up, the way that they started, the way that they are able to persevere, and whatever the world keeps on shooting them with arrows and with challenges they're able to just leap over. I feel like those types of stories to me evoke so much in me because I can resonate with that as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, anything to do with real life stories.
When you're not painting, what's your favorite thing to do?
When I'm not painting, there are a few things. I play piano. I actually am going back into composing.
Oh, cool.
And of course, continue learning languages. And I'm diving a lot into sculpting lately, I think.
Sculpting?
And there's something about it that it actually helps my actual art styles. I'm that type of person. I'm so curious. I want to dabble in everything. So it could actually mold and make my foundation stronger.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just curious, what motivated you to learn so many languages?
I think growing up in a household that was constantly around 3 languages, it felt that I just by default wanted to learn more. Like there is something about when you speak Lithuanian or Russian, your persona, the way you present yourself, the words can be said accurately and translated, but it's just the way that you feel, the way you think, it's just, there's something about it that shifts. And I love that you can actually put yourself in a different position, different mindset just by saying the same sentence.
It kind of connects you to the culture and the people of that language too,
it
doesn't
connects
it?
so deeply. And
I finally decided to learn Spanish during
Really?
COVID.
I have to learn Spanish.
Yeah, because I had studied Russian for a year, couldn't speak Russian to anybody. German for 7 years, no Germans to talk with. But there's Spanish speakers all in my church, and so
I'm
I
saying it has to be number one now on the top priority.
I'm going to learn English next.
Yeah, I'm still there too. I'm still learning.
Okay, if you could only eat one dessert for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One dessert, mochis.
Oh,
These are like
the dog next door is named Mochi.
Oh, really? Mochi is
That's
like
all I can
this.
think of.
It is like, because I've lived in Japan, I think I became more I dived so deep into the culture, and they had either green tea mochis or red bean mochis. It's just something about it. I don't know, just satisfies like my senses.
Gonna have
It's
to
really
have that.
good.
Never had it.
It's very unique though. So
So, of all the places you've been in the world, how many countries have you been in? Do you know? Lots.
I feel that to date, I might have lived and visited over 35 countries now.
Wow.
It's
So
going to be more.
what's your favorite place? If you had to pick one.
Probably it is Japan.
Japan.
Probably it is.
Wow.
It's the way that they're able to navigate their everyday life with respect and grace and organization, and the way that they speak with one another, and the way they are able to communicate with such etiquette and with such grace. I think it's very similar to sometimes the Lithuanian culture, but the Lithuanian culture is still my home. It's where I feel I could express myself the best. I still think that Lithuania, of course, is my top two.
Yeah. So you've been to Lithuania a lot?
I've lived there to Lithuania.
Oh, you have?
Yes, I
I've been to
have.
Lithuania.
So I would say Lithuania and Japan.
Yeah. You have had a very unique childhood. What was the best part of it?
Growing up in a family that was unafraid to be outside of the box and allowed me to venture out and grow in so many ways and make mistakes. And all my brothers, myself included, we thrived in that environment. It felt like we were like those seeds in that garden that just kept on wanting to be watered. I want to continue passing on this message, to not be afraid to get out of that box, because children are so unique and so individualized that we sometimes forget that we all grow in different speeds. We all grow in different ways, and to have the parents be unafraid to say, no, this is what they need. And that's how I was able to flourish, and I was able to discover my talents so young.
Yeah.
Because I had that comfort, that protective sanctuary that, it's okay.
Yeah.
So that by far is the best.
Yeah, that was a big gift your parents gave you, wasn't it? That's
think.
awesome. All right. Well, I want to shift now and go deeper into your, this Heaven is Real conference. Go deeper into your spiritual experience of heaven. Some of the questions I've had that maybe others have had. Just to give you a little background, interesting how we got connected. My daughter was in the Children's Art Foundation, and she's about Akiana's age. And my wife homeschooled her and my son for the same reason. And my son's a musician, artist today because of that. She found your artwork as an inspiration for my daughter, Ashley.
Oh my God.
So we have Akiana's first book. It's 20 years old. So, we followed you and all that. And then I've been doing this research for a long time. And along the way, I came across Colton Burpo, who was a 4-year-old who had a near-death experience and encountered Jesus. And his father was a pastor. His story was in the movie Heaven is Real. Yeah. His father saw you on CNN. And I think you were about 6 and Colton was about 6, but you had both had your experiences at about 4. And he noticed Akiana saying about the colors of heaven and looking into Jesus' eyes and how mesmerizing. And he was like, that's exactly what Colton said. And then he saw your Prince of Peace painting.
Yes.
Todd, Colton's father, they had always had this thing for like 2 years. that every time they saw a painting of Jesus, they would say, "Did he look like that? Did he look like that?" And Colton was always like, "No, not really. No, not really. No, not really." So Todd goes and pulls up Akiana's Prince of Peace painting on the website and has Colton look at it, and he just stands there staring and goes, "Dad, that's him."
Yeah.
And just a fascinating aside is how many near-death experiencers I have encountered who have said the same thing of her painting. So I hear him say that, and then Colton also said that Jesus' eyes were blue. And I thought, well, that's not right. He's Jewish. Jewish people's eyes are brown, you know? But then I was coming across more and more near-death experiencers saying a similar thing. Like Heidi, who you saw in that video, who's Jewish, said, "I didn't ever say this to anybody because they would think I was crazy. I'm Jewish." But Jesus' eyes were blue. And others as well, Gary Wood and others. And so I'm doing all this, and I remember Colton saying that about your painting. So I run and grab our book, and I pull it out, and I look, and I was like, oh my gosh, he painted him with kind of bluish green eyes. That's so wild. So I start diving more into Akiana's backstory and all that, and all of the things you were saying about experiencing heaven as a 4-year-old aligned with what these near-death experiences were saying. And so I ended up writing a chapter with Akiana's story and Colton's story and these others coming together in
What
heaven.
an honor that was.
And so for us to be able to then later meet you and do stuff like this has been such an honor for us. So, you know, to me, what you were saying about heaven was the same, even though you hadn't had a near-death experience. But even more, you know, Akiana was, I think, the first what's called a binary child prodigy, which means a child prodigy in two aspects, both art and poetry, right?
Yes.
And the whole world recognized this is supernatural. An 8-year-old can't paint what she was painting, right? Or the poetry and the depth of that. So I want to kind of dive into that.
Let's do it.
And your heaven encounter a little bit more. So first,
Absolutely.
just to set it up, talk about your family's spiritual background at the point of your heaven encounter, because they didn't really have
Absolutely.
much background, right?
The genesis of my whole family's spiritual experiences, I want to just set the tone. I have 2 older brothers at this time, and we grew up in an environment where God was never a part of any conversation. The understanding of what heaven was, of what a spiritual encounter, what angels, this was unheard of in our family. My mother grew up as an atheist in her country. And she and my father felt it was best necessary just to let the children grow in however they see fit and in their own way. So this is when I'm being brought up into this environment, was completely barren of this knowledge and void of this knowledge. What was interesting is the small little developments, small little steps that transpired that not only changed my life, but it changed my whole entire family. It started off as slight snapshots of images when I was 3.5 years old. Sometimes it would come and go, but this was super bright, super colorful. Then it started progressing into very long dreams, very long visions, and heavy and deep and meaningful ones.
Were they dreams like at night, or was it
This was, at the time, I believe it was just at night. And then it came during the day. So these dreams turn into daily and daytime visions. So where I would sit and have breakfast and literally have this experience while I'm eating breakfast with my brothers, and they have no idea what's going on.
And are you aware that you're having breakfast,
I'm aware,
but you're also...
and I feel like I'm living 2 lives at the same time, and it was very easy for me. It felt, but it was exhausting.
And you're only 4, 3,
I'm
4?
4 years old at this time.
So you also, this is all you've known.
This
so
is
it
all
doesn't
I've known.
seem different.
It didn't, exactly. It's like I'm being brought up into this new experience. I felt like everyone was
Probably,
experiencing this.
Yeah, it's normal life.
And then it started getting extremely heavy topics, where these heavy conversations that I was having with this this light that was following me. And I was being shown these different worlds, sometimes these very dark worlds. And then there was a huge contrast of this extraordinary light and this world where I would go, and these colors you can taste, you can smell, you are so interactive and immersive in this experience that I had no concept or realization what these were. So the best way I was able to describe it was through some sort of medium, because my words were and my vocabulary was not large enough to describe it to my parents. I started drawing with the means of expressing what I was seeing a little bit more accurately.
Wow.
And
you started telling your mom, though, I was with God today.
yes, and that's the
And I thought that was fascinating because she was like, who's God?
He was God, yes.
But you were
Yes.
describing exactly what near-death experiencers who maybe don't even know God would say. God is
Exactly.
light, and God
Yes.
is good and love. And
Yes, and that's the most interesting part, is because my vocabulary was not large enough, this word God still, the best way I would have described it to my mom was this light or this love or this feeling of immense warmth. And I started showing her these drawings, and of course, as the most precious, beautiful mom she is, she took it as, oh, this is just one of her dreams. This is,
Right.
But then what really shifted my parents' perspective of, oh, this is real, was when the time I was 5.5 years old. There was one day, I think it was some spring morning, I was in my house. I was in the inside hallway, and my whole body completely almost pixelated and felt like I was gone. Like I felt like my soul and everything just lifted up. And that moment, I'll tell you two scenarios, what happened in real life and what happened, the spiritual experience I encountered. In that moment, I remembered going and experiencing and opening these doors to different lives, and not just lives, but worlds. And the best way I could have accurately depicted to you now was heaven. And not just heaven, but other parts of the past, present, and the future of the world itself. So here I am experiencing all this,
at
feeling
5.
at 5 years old, feeling I have just been living for hundreds and hundreds of years. Now, present time, I am physically missing on earth. My parents could not find me. My brothers could not find me. And they all suspected it was a potential kidnapping. And so they called
Where
the
had you
police. This is the most interesting part. They called the police, they called the sheriff. There were dozens and dozens of cars in our driveway, and they all were on the search for finding me. I was missing. I was gone. This is from my mom's and my father's perspective. After 6 hours of complete vanishment of Akiana, I come walking through the hallway and towards them directly, and I'm just standing there exhausted. My mom and there's a sheriff just double take at me, and they just start running towards me. They were asking, where have you been? Where have you been? And she told me, I told her that I have so much to do. I'm very tired, but I know what my mission is.
And what was that something God told you?
I felt that I remembered that whatever I was experiencing in that time, felt that I needed to take the necessary steps at that very moment to start practicing and drawing and then painting. And then I needed to get the word out. I needed to spread this message that was passed on to me. And that message was unconditional love and unwavering truth and eternal life. I needed at all cost make this message possible. And that experience, from that point on, my parents' perspective about the whole spiritual world just opened up, and they really believed that this was God and this was meant to happen, and they were extremely supportive from the very beginning. And everything.
And is that when you came back talking about Jesus as
Yes.
well, and
That's
really
when
led your whole
everything
family to
happened.
faith, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally was that experience that opened up the whole doors for my whole family.
I remember, I think, reading it that you at one point said, God is teaching me to paint or to draw.
Yes.
How was that?
This is one part. There was a step before I told my mom that God was teaching me to draw. There was this angel that kept on following me. She was so bright. She was so tall, and her teeth was so white that I literally took a toothpaste and wanted to whiten my teeth as white as hers. And here I am with all these toothpaste in my teeth with my mom. Mom, I'm trying to be like my angel.
Did you find out what whitener she uses?
No, I did not.
I'll use it.
I don't think I would ever know. But she was the one that was guiding me and protecting me. And then afterwards, it's almost like I was able to speak directly to this. The best way I could have explained it, that what God and Jesus was at the time was this immense source of bright light that knew all the answers in the world. And I remember it teaching me, and I remember him showing me techniques and opening my eyes and seeing colors in such a different light. So that was the starting points of my artistic journey.
Well, and I think, the world recognized that you must be telling the truth, because how could an 8-year-old paint that? And why, if you grew up, with no background of faith and atheist mom and agnostic dad, it just didn't make sense, right?
It doesn't make sense from the outside perspective, but it made sense to me because like I said, I felt that everyone experienced a very similar experience like I did. I felt that I was no different. From 5 years old, I started getting these bits and pieces of this face, of this light turned into more of a real shawl, real neck, real hair. And it came to me in puzzles. And it was only until I was 7.5 years old, when the full face of Jesus came to me. And that's when I told my parents.
And that was in another vision, or were you actually experiencing heaven?
I was trying to put a face to this experience and to this being that I was speaking to. And this face was only unveiled to me in bits and pieces. And when
you were about 7 or 8?
Yes. So when I was finally 7 years old, the whole entirety of the portrait came to me. And I told my parents, I need to paint this face at all costs because I knew it was going to be important. I don't know why. I felt I had to. It was my duty. It was my mission.
Did you know this was the face of Jesus?
No.
You did?
At this time, I still didn't know what even the word God or Jesus truly was. I just knew this, just this immense feeling. And I told my parents, I need to paint this face. I went to so many stores, so many malls, and I went to bus stops just to find a model to somewhat accurately to represent this face that I was seeing. But I couldn't find anybody. So one day I sat down and I literally lifted my hands up and I'm like, if you really want me to paint this face, bring him to the front door. I was like, as a 7.5, 8-year-old, like just bring him tomorrow. Literally the next day, I heard a knock on the door And here comes this 7-foot tall carpenter. And he looks, at a literal carpenter. I open the door and he looks down and he says, I believe someone is looking for a model. I am here to be a model.
Literally
but he
a carpenter.
Did not
he worked as a carpenter.
The artist would be an 8-year-old girl. So I went ahead and did a lot of convincing and showed him my studio. And after lots of talks and sketches, he agreed to be my model. And I was able to accurately and completely depict that face that came together in its entirety.
Wow.
And that's how the Prince of Peace came about.
I was just at a conference, the first Christian conference of indie ears. So there were like 500 people from all over the world. 2 people presenting that have had near-death experiences showed this painting and said, this is the closest I've ever seen. And so I have a question, because I asked Heidi, who's a good friend of mine, she was the Jewish woman in there. And I said last year on the way, I called her and I said, so how close is that? And she said, well, really close, but his nose is a little crooked. Not in your painting. She said, when I saw him, I noticed that. So how close is this? Is it exact, or is it like as best I could get it?
The best way I can describe it is when I painted at 8 years old, it was everything I could have possibly have done at 8 years old. With all the techniques that I finally was able to develop, I just wanted to get everything quickly as I can before this vision would have faded away. And this painting took 40 hours to complete, and I lost 4 teeth at 8 years old. But it felt like 40 years. It felt I have given
much you put
so
into it.
much out of it. And the best way that I can explain it is that I believe that God wanted me to paint this face at this particular time at 8 years old for a reason.
Oh, absolutely.
And by doing that, I think that it was all in God's timing, and I was able to, many years later, in hyper detail, paint the portrait of Jesus again, titled Jesus, when I was 23 years old.
Not Father Forgive Them, but
Father Forgive Them was painted right after the Prince of Peace, but in hyper detail, I painted the Jesus. But Father Forgive Them, as you see here, I completed it on my 9th birthday.
Well, I totally agree. And it's fascinating because God told you have a mission to do. And I think you're exactly right, because just think, I mean, even at 8 and 9, because it was this painting that thrust you into the limelight. You were on CNN, you were on every major media outlet, started to travel the world. And if you had been your age and painted this, people would have gone, wow, you're a really good artist. But at 8, everybody's like, that's not possible. And the fact that your testimony of, God wants this message out and he showed me these things, it's just an incredible, it was at exactly the right time.
I believe so. I truly believe it's all in God's plan at that particular time. I had to live, I had to experience, I had to see this face at this time. And even by looking back at some of my works as a 30-year-old right now, and of course, with my techniques and with my experience going back into time, of course, there would be moments of I could have done this to this painting, I could have done that to that painting. But in reality, it was meant to be painted at that time, at that way, with that technique, with that medium, because I believe I have to trust God in every single project that I do. And this was one of many that I did.
Why do you think God gave you these gifts?
I don't know entirely why, but I do know the perseverance, the endurance, and the passion I have feel like the talent and the gift is only 20%, of what I love doing and it's in the whole art aspect. I believe that my art or the way that I paint, through the way I persevere or anything like that, I feel that maybe God wants me to inspire people for them to overcome whatever they need to in their life, or they pick up something that they've dropped a long time ago. Maybe that is the reason why he gave me and gave me this effort and this perseverance that I love doing.
Well, and you've pointed millions of people to the God of light and love that you've drawn.
I hope to
And
continue.
you went through, I mean, I'll tell you honestly, Kathy and I, before we knew you, we knew your work and followed you, and we prayed for you because I kept thinking, and we talked about it, what a gift, but what a challenge, what a burden too for a kid. You had to grow up fast, I'm sure. You had a lot of antagonism too from adults, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how did you deal with that?
It was a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure for an 8-year-old to go into this world that was so foreign. And I went into this world only because I wanted to gift this painting and all my paintings to the world. I wanted just to give. And in the beginning, the more I gave, the more I have shown my work to the public, the more animosity, the more arrows were pointed at me and to my family. And some called it blasphemy. Some called that I was from hell. Some called me a devil child. They called me a fake. They called me all the names on the list, and some I cannot repeat on stage.
How did you deal with that?
I think it was absolutely hands down my family. They were the ones that were my biggest shield. And even there was a moment, I think I was around 9.5 years old, where I felt it was just so much for me that I stopped painting for a few months. But then the moment I stopped painting, I felt so empty, and I felt I was, my torch was so diminished. And I cannot stop painting.
It's what God created you to do.
I wanted to do it because it feels it's the right thing to do. And my family were the best supporters and the best protectors I could have ever prayed for. And to this day, every single one of my family members, they are like my guardians and protectors.
Did you ever feel angry or mad at God, like for giving you this and thrusting you into this, or?
No, not at all. On the contrary, I took it as a challenge. On the contrary, I took it as a means and as a mountain to climb over, because I was brought up in this very, very adventurous environment that can overcome anything. And I felt that because of that environment was engraved in me, and it felt like I need to overcome this because I know the scenery on top of that mountain will be so priceless, and without question, I'm going to climb that.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, feel like I am so blessed I'm able to have that family to climb with me on that mountain.
I did want to ask you, which of all the paintings have the most spiritual significance to you, and why?
Wow. I would say there's always a handful that come very, very, is so engraved in me to my core that it's with me every single day. And of course, one of them is the Prince of Peace. It's always a part of me in every step I take. But there was one drawing that I have done. I think it was around 4.5 years old. And that was one of that drawing of my guardian angel that I showed to my mom for the very first time.
Yeah.
There was another one, it was titled Triumph. That was actually one of my
Triumph?
latest ones. And it is this cosmos of so many magenta colors, and in the middle there's this big ball of light. But if you look closer, the more you see so many forms and shapes of humans and animals and mathematical formulas. And the whole concept of that painting was that no matter how much formidable forces that are weaved into the cosmos, no matter how many lives that are so different, it is engraved in every fabric of the universe. But always in the end, truth will always prevail. And if we're humble, if we are truthful to ourselves and to God, everything will fall in its place. And this big cosmos, even though it looks chaotic, it's beautiful in its own way. And I feel that, to me, almost represents the importance of life itself and how important every individual, every animal, every nature, it's so important to God, and it's so important.
How old were you when you painted is it called the Dream Years?
Yes,
Or the
there
dream-
is Dreams and Jesus the Missing Years.
The Missing Years.
Yes. I was, I believe, 10 years
10.
old, if I'm
So
not
when
mistaken.
you painted that, did you know anything about the new heavens and new earth of the Bible?
Nothing.
So did you know what you, because
Nope, I didn't.
she painted, explain, the new heavens and new earth are,
This is titled Jesus the Missing Years, and it came to me in one of the strongest visions where initially I painted just him sitting down, and it was only after the full entire body was painted that the cosmos was painted afterwards. And I didn't understand the concept. I just have to trust the process. It was only afterwards that I realized that the left side of the painting, you'll see our earth. And from the earth, there are footsteps, and there's his footsteps leading up to this place where it is almost like the creation of the universe, his place to communicate with God. But on the right side of the cosmos, there is a planet with green foliage. And it's almost wrapped around this cosmic fog. And there's sparkles around this painting. And it had no oceans, no huge bodies of water. So here I am, 10 years old, just painted this painting. And I finally was able to unveil it in some of my gallery showings. And a few weeks later, some just incredible, gifted, smart human beings. They were historians. They were archaeologists. They shared with me this incredible information of saying, and they says, "Did you know what you painted in this painting?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. What do you see?" For me as an artist, I love to ask this question because sometimes I paint things I have no idea what I'm comprehending. And they're like, "This is the new earth that you've painted." And there are stories that in the Bible there was no huge bodies of water. And the reason why I painted it behind this cloud, it's still in creation. It's still being created. That's why it's almost like in a workshop, that I like to call it.
That's awesome. Okay, one last question, then we'll open it up. What do you do now to maintain your connection with God?
There are two things. Absolutely every morning, the moment I wake up, I go directly into the studio because I know that the moment I'm opening up my studio, that's when I am open to this place of a different version of Akiana, where I am almost absorbing everything that is being bestowed to me, whatever it is. And I feel it immediately when I am entering my studio. And by doing that, after I paint, I go directly and try to go into nature at all possible, whether it is the ocean, whether it's walking in the woods. If you listen closely, you're able to hear the whispers of him everywhere. And me, I'm so emotional and attuned to all these vibrations and all these details that it just is so loud to me, and I can hear it, and it's just so beautiful. It becomes almost like a symphony in my ears.
That's me too. Nature's where I go to pray. I love it. Okay, well, let's take some questions. Michelle, you gonna?
Yes. So we have a couple that people have put in the app here. I have one from Valerie. For you, Akiana, in your mom's book, she wrote a quote from you when you were 8 years old that starts with, "I was taken again." Do you recall this? And what do you mean by taken again?
So at the time, my vocabulary of being taken meant that I was being shown places. I was physically almost being a tourist in these worlds. And when I meant taken, it was that spiritual experience that either my angel, God, or I was on this journey and exploring these different worlds, the different places. And I would often say this to my mom when I was around that age. And that's when it meant that I was being shown these places.
Okay, one from Sujay. Did you ever ask the angels who visited you their names?
I believe it was probably said, but I remember never calling the name. It was just not necessary. Where I truly remember that everything was spoken without words, if I can say that. It's such a...
Well, that's exactly what near-death experiencers say. Yeah. It's pure communication, thought to thought, heart to heart, feeling, no misunderstanding.
It would be so easy if it was such a name and so easy to remember, I would have, but I felt like at that moment, at the time, it was no need. We all knew each other so well, and I felt that no needs were needed.
Okay, this is a question from Blanca about your painting The Island.
Oh, yes.
Do you believe it's a real place?
So this is one of the paintings I wanted to actually share with you of what was the most significant spiritual paintings. This was also one of them. And I remember that this painting, The Island, is a landscape of this gushing waterfalls with these arches. And in the very, very, very far distance, there is a small, like visible pyramids. And then throughout the foliage, these are these giants that are from the earth. And I remember telling to my parents that I would often visit this place, and I would put a seed right by this archway, and it was that seed that it would grow to another arch to connect these worlds, these little continents together. And to me, it felt extremely real that I would revisit there. But yeah, it felt really real.
Like a heavenly place.
Like a heavenly place, probably.
Another one about your painting, The Tree of Life. What do the tree and the blue flowers represent to you?
Now, I love colors, and not for the specific reason that you might think. Every painting, it's painted with those certain set of colors for a reason. And Tree of Life is a scene where there are broken up floating worlds with there's roots growing out of it, like floating in the sky. And right in the middle, there is this tree with blue leaves, and there is this pathway that leads up to the blue tree that is gigantic. And The reason why I painted it a blue, because to me, blue represents the color of the mind or the color of thoughts. So it was my way of almost saying that not only was this like the life-giving tree, but it was like the knowledge. There was so much memories and thoughts. Like this was like the origin of and the protector of it. And the tree of life was probably the best way I could have accurately depict what I was seeing and feeling.
This is a question for both Akiane and John. Why do you believe that art is such a powerful way to express the spiritual realm?
I feel that art is a gateway to people's truth, intentions, emotions, and feelings. It can only open up, it could only be revealed through the arts. There are so many different mediums that are around the world that is so powerful, but if we want to know ourselves and our journeys and our communication with who we are and who we want to be in with God, the arts, especially the art and poetry, they have this ability to just unlock and to put a physical representation of what you are feeling or thinking about. Because thoughts, it's all here. Your feelings, it's all here. But when you see it face to face, you're able to physically and emotionally take a step back and just appreciate how incredible life is, and you will get to know who you are. It's a great way to answer so many of your questions.
Well, and I would agree with that in that, and I know music a lot better, but I've always been interested in how the arts, music, poetry, physical art, movies, they can sneak behind your defenses. And I think there's something that God can use to open a person up when we hide behind our minds and our thoughts. But like Akiane said, there's the soul. And sometimes the soul hides behind the thoughts and the body. But you hear a song and suddenly you're somewhere else, right? Or it moves you in a way that you aren't expecting. And God's Spirit can speak through that. Or you see something that opens you up like you're talking about.
Oh, that's so beautifully put.
All right, can we give John and Akiane a round of applause, please?